What is up, friends? Sydney here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be talking about a very highly requested topic, and that is my journey coming off of birth control and then getting my natural cycle back. This is something I get asked about all the time, so we're doing a video on it. And did also want to give a big disclaimer for this video because I want to really stress this. Number one, this video is not me trying to convince you to get off birth control. This is me sharing my story of coming off of it. Number two, I am not a doctor. I am not an endocrinologist. I am not an OBGYN. I am not any of those things. This is simply my experience. I am not diagnosing, treating, or helping anybody with protocols here. This again is my experience. And number three, if you are, say, coming off of birth control or trying to get your natural cycle back, anything like that, please see a doctor, because the things that I mentioned here are due to where my labs were. Like the supplements I implemented were due to my hormone like ratios and things like that. And if you're struggling, you could be dealing with a totally separate issue, which I'll kind of get into. So three really big disclaimers, but regardless, this is a very highly requested video, so I'm still really excited to do it. I have everything broken down on the sheet of paper that I want to go over. It'll probably be kind of a lengthy video just because I'm literally going through all of it from the start, but I really hope that you guys enjoy it. If you do, please be sure to give this a thumbs up and subscribe. Comment below what you thought. Comment below if you learned anything new or if this kind of helps open up your eyes to anything. And yeah, I really hope that it helps you. And so with that being said, let's just jump into it. Okay guys, so we're gonna start basically from the beginning here. Oh, my little sheet of paper just fell. Okay, so starting kind of way back. So I was put on birth control in high school. So I had really painful cramps. I had symptoms that made me really sick. Like I would get really nauseous, I would throw up, things like that. Not fun symptoms. So I got put on birth control for that. I didn't ever go on it for anything with like skin or anything like that. And at the time that I went on it, like obviously it wasn't even like for birth control purposes. It was solely for my symptoms that I was experiencing around my cycle. So that is why I was put on it. I definitely was never explained anything at all. I just took it and it helped, so I kept taking it. So it was a 3-month pack. I don't remember the name. I feel like the brand name kind of changed a lot, but I do know it was a 3-month pack. So I would only have my cycle, every 3 months. Just want to make sure I kind of like cover all the history here. So also I did think it was important to note in this video that I did have, never diagnosed, but whatever, we could call it an eating disorder, we could call it extreme restriction, we could call it overexercising, a mix of the two, whatever. I had that all through the end of high school and the beginning of college. So on top of the birth control pill, I also was putting a lot of stress on my body, mentally, physically, from a calorie and nutrient standpoint, from an overexercising standpoint. So I did think that that was also important to note because that is part of like my background of my internal health in my body. So it is also important to know that with birth control, what it does is it does suppress your ovulation. So when it comes to birth control, essentially your body is not making its own hormones. Therefore, coming off of the pill is why a lot of women will see that they don't have a cycle, because their body is kind of essentially forgotten how to make this hormone since it hasn't been doing it, obviously in my case, for so long. And in my case, like I wasn't even like matured yet. Like my body was still trying to balance itself out, and to me it's shocking that I was put on it before my just everything even had a chance to mature how it was supposed to. But that's besides the point. That's not what we're gonna get into here. So that's kind of a little bit of my history. Okay, so let's see. I started to learn more about birth control, I would say beginning of 2019. So when I'm recording this, it is December of 2020. So a little over a year ago, maybe like a year and a half ago, I started to just come across more people who were talking about the pill, and I noticed some symptoms in myself while I was on the pill. Just things like I couldn't experience super highs, I couldn't experience super lows either. Like I just didn't have much emotion. And outside of that, I've always been a big nerd in terms of internal health and things like that. So I was just learning more in general about what it does and basically its role. So I'm not even I'm not anti-birth control. I am pro knowing what you're doing. That's why I said I'm not making this video to convince you to get off. I think that it can be an option for some people, absolutely. I think that the important thing is to do your research and make the decision that you want to make, not just like blindly putting something into you. So besides that point, so I started to learn about it early 2019, and I decided, you know what, I want to get off of this. Also too, whenever it comes to like body composition goals, obviously if you have something controlling your hormones, it could be a little harder to shift things. So that was like another one of my like reasonings. But okay, so first, or I guess next, because that's kind of history of everything. So I learned more about it. And then when I decided to, okay, like I want to come off of this, I want to get my natural cycle back, because whenever you bleed on birth control, those aren't like true period bleeds, because birth control does suppress ovulation. So I was like, okay, I want a real cycle. Like I literally basically have never had one, like maybe a couple before I got put on it. And yeah, I was just learning a lot more about it, and I will actually put some of the podcasts and books below that I recommend if you want to learn more, because again, don't take this video and go do exactly what I did, like do your own research too. So I'll put that below. But anyway, so I learned more, came off the pill in August of 2019. Guys, I totally forgot to add a part in here, so I'm literally throwing this in randomly. So I don't know, bear with me, I hope it flowed. But a couple of my biggest symptoms right when I also too got off the pill, or yeah, when I got off the pill, I guess would be the biggest time, but was my hair loss. I lost so much hair because my progesterone levels again just kind of like tanked because my body wasn't making its own hormones. So I lost a lot of hair. It was actually really hard. I'm not even gonna like sugarcoat that. I cried about it. It sucked, but that was part of it. Depression and anxiety got pretty bad, honestly, for a little bit. Again, before I felt like I was almost emotionless in a sense, which is not good. But then after, I did experience a little bit worse of like depression and anxiety. There for like a short time after. I think that was more so just due to the estrogen being more dominant, and estrogen is a little bit more of like that excitatory hormone with that. So yeah, okay, I just wanted to throw that in there. Again, I don't even know if that flowed, but back to whatever I was saying. Now, I didn't do it the smartest way. I actually never went to my OBGYN. But again, this is my story. I'm not recommending that. I still haven't. She still probably doesn't know. She's probably like, oh, I don't know. This girl just never refilled her prescription. I don't know. But anyways, so I came off the pill in August of 2019. So first I'm going to kind of tell you guys when my next cycle came, as well as the ones that I've had since. So to this day, I have now had 5 natural cycles, but it took me a lot of work and a lot of time to get there. So my first cycle did not come until June of 2020. And that is June, almost a year. So that's 10 months. So if I came off in August of 2019, I had my first natural cycle off the pill in June, and it was June 11th. So then my next cycle, and I'm going to get into all the labs, all the things I did, but my second cycle was August 31st. So that came a couple months later, almost 3 months later, I think, and it was only 2.5 days long. It was barely anything. The next one didn't come until October 2nd, so now we have almost like a, would that be, well, that was getting, wait, October, or August 31st, so that one was closer together, obviously. So we had June to August, which was a pretty big gap, and then we had August to October, and then that one was 2 days, and then cycle 4 came October 29th, so I was getting excited because I was like, oh my gosh, like this is actually turning into like a normal cycle of like, you know, like 28 to 30-ish days. So it was October 2nd and then October 29th, and then my last one I had on November 28th, and it was 3 days, so it was the longest one that I've had, and I've had 3 in a row that were consistent, like with the number between them. They weren't like 3 months apart or anything like that. So I should be expecting my next one here in like a couple of weeks, hopefully. I have hope, and I've still been doing everything to make sure that that happens. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, history of that. So in terms of labs, because this was the first thing that, and by the way, I did work with a coach through this, and he also helped me look at my labs. And one thing that I do look at labs for like my one-on-one clients, especially if I sense that something hormonal is going on, but I put a huge disclaimer on it that like I am not a doctor, whatever. So like still disclaiming that, you know, working alongside doctors who sometimes do make it kind of difficult to get the labs that we need pulled, but that's not for this video. I'm not trying to get a bunch of hate on this video. This is simply me sharing my story. So anyways, I had a coach throughout this too. Actually, it's still the same coach that I work with. I love him. His name's Alex. And anyways, so got my labs done, and what we saw was, so I'm going to kind of read through the main things that we saw that had to kind of do with my cycle. So number one, progesterone was basically non-existent. And now what I will say is that at certain points in a normal cycle, your progesterone will be basically bottomed out. But at the time I took this lab, that was not necessarily the case. So my progesterone was just pretty much like non-existent. I think it was like 0.2 or something, which again, in some parts of a cycle, that's normal, but not where I took it. And then in comparison, so my estrogen wasn't, it didn't like rank high, but in comparison to my progesterone, it was high. So the ratios showed that I was having some estrogen dominance. So again, even though the estrogen number came back in range, it was because of the ratios that we would consider it a little bit of estrogen dominance. So I had very low free testosterone, and my DHEA was also low. So those are two androgens, and you know, those are really also important in females. It's not just a male thing. So those two were both low. And then my thyroid was a little bit low, or whenever I say low, my TSH was having to pump out quite a bit to keep my free T3 and free T4 where it needed to be, which is also a sign that, you know, your thyroid's having to overwork a little bit. So that was there. My vitamin D levels were low. Looking back, that's definitely probably more so due to malabsorption from some gut issues I was having, but regardless, vitamin D was low. My insulin was a little bit high, so my blood glucose levels were normal. But because my insulin was high, that still showed that I was having some issues there, just with basically my body was having to crank out quite a bit of insulin to keep my blood sugars low enough. So regardless, that was still something that we wanted to work on. And then my cortisol was high. So my cortisol being high was definitely playing a big role in the insulin. It was playing a big role in the thyroid and the hormones, because it all goes together. It is important to note too that when cortisol is staying elevated all the time, that is going to rob a lot of your progesterone too, because we need progesterone to make cortisol. So a lot of times in high stress people, because cortisol is a stress hormone, whether that's high stress from like mental or overexercising, under eating, etc., we can see progesterone being robbed, leading to some like estrogen dominance and stuff. So that's kind of an important note there. So those were my labs. So we knew, all right, we need to, you know, upregulate some hormones. We need to get your thyroid running better, not overworking as much. We need to make your insulin not be having to pump out as much. We need to get your stress down and your cortisol levels down. So that was our main steps that we were looking at to take. And again, another disclaimer here, the steps that I'm about to go through might not apply to you, because for some people, you may get labs and your DHEA and testosterone might be super high. You may be experiencing more so some things along the line of like PCOS. You know, if you're having like, say you had like high insulin, high blood sugar, whatever, and high androgens, that would be like an opposite kind of scenario of me. So this is, again, my journey. So I need to take a little look at the next thing that I'm going to go over, and then we're going to kind of cover the steps that I took to get my natural cycle back. So first of all, in terms of my weight, so coming out of my last like little cutting phase that I did, I was around 134 pounds, which this is, whenever I say I was around 134, I was like perfectly mentally healthy. I wasn't like overly restricting. This wasn't like in my ED kind of stage. This was just like, I had kind of just done a little fat loss phase. I decided, this was like when I was still on birth control, and then I decided to get off, whatever. I was like 134. So today, as of like filming this video, I'm around 148. So that's about a 15-ish pound increase. Since I decided, hey, I'm going to prioritize regardless, as much as I really, you know, it's not that I necessarily needed to gain weight other than obviously for a healthy cycle, but it was more so like, this is what I'm gonna have to do if I want to prioritize internal health. And if I want to get this natural cycle back, I'm just gonna have to suck it up and I'm gonna have to do this. So it's been about 15 pounds gained. It's been kind of a mental struggle, I will say, but I've also learned a lot about loving myself for a lot of other reasons outside of like just body composition, etc. I still have body comp goals, but it was a great time to not be focused on those and to find the other things about me and like really embrace self-love in a different kind of like manner, but that's kind of for a totally different video. So 15 pounds is what it's been since kind of starting this journey of getting my cycle back. So one big thing that we did was decrease training volume and frequency for a long while. So I freaking love to train. It's my outlet. I have loved weightlifting. I've loved challenging myself since high school. Even in those days when it was more of an obsession with exercise, I still loved it. Like I always have. And so that was hard for me. I had to drop my training 2-3 times a week for a long period of time there. And even like the volume within those 3 days was like not a lot. I couldn't take any sets to failure. I couldn't do HIIT type training because all of those things, they put a stress on the body, and our goal was, hey, we gotta basically tell the body there's like nothing to worry about, no stress here, we're good to have a cycle, etc. So we had to bring down training volume quite a bit. Again, our biggest goal was like getting cortisol down, and cortisol is a stress hormone, and stress comes from so many areas of life. So whenever we, our focus was the cortisol in order to improve all the other things. Anyways though, so we had to decrease that. That was a tough one for me. And after we dropped it to 3 days for a while, eventually brought it back up to 4, but even then we still weren't taking a bunch of sets to failure. I wasn't really able to like really push myself hard. So it was hard for me. It was really hard, but hey, we did it and it paid off. So stress management was another huge thing. Really just controlling my own stress and being able to see, hey, what can I control here? What can't I control? Letting things go, getting more into journaling, breathing, like just stress management, stress perception overall, especially being a business owner. I was a little all over the place with my stress. So really getting that under control and me realizing, hey, this is up to you to control. So that was a big thing. More sleep. I was waking up really early, and that was one thing I kind of had to say, hey, I know that it's great to wake up early and get started on work, but right now, which one matters more, having 2 extra hours of work or getting me internally where I want to be health-wise? And so I had to choose that sleep for a while, and now I kind of sit around 8 to 9 hours, but there for a while, I was just not setting an alarm, letting my body sleep, letting myself rest. And that was hard for me too, because I've always been like, let's wake up at 5:30 and start crushing work. Less caffeine, that was another one, just getting my caffeine intake down a little bit. I try to keep it like under 150 milligrams a day. I think I was at like 300 milligrams at that time, and I still have my days, but I try my best. And then, all right, so in terms of supplements that I used, this one, again, another disclaimer, these supplements, there's some specific supplements that I used where I don't want you to just go out and buy them because they're specific to the imbalances that we saw in my labs. But there are a few that I would kind of recommend just generally for everybody. The ones that I would recommend kind of for everybody, so fish oil, going to be really important for getting those healthy omega-3s in, really big for the inflammation response. Inflammation, cortisol are correlated. So fish oil was a big one. Multivitamin, I just think everybody should have that in. And then my reds and greens that you guys have probably seen me take, those 3 were all from Phorm. So my fish oil, my multivitamin, and my reds and greens, those were all from Phorm, and those are still and always will be just a part of my day-to-day. So those were some supplements. Those weren't super specific though. I think that could be a great option for anybody. And then in terms of specific to what we were working on, there is a brand called NuEthix. I used 3 of their products. I actually have a code for them too, so I'll put that below, and I will put the product links below. Just know that some of these may work for you, some may not. You need to get your labs done, talk to your own doctor, etc. So I took liposomal chasteberry, so that is to help keep progesterone levels, basically to help the body in the progesterone production, because again, mine's pretty much bottomed out. I took estro, which is a supplement that kind of helps you detox estrogen, basically. So a lot of times too, we can see, I was having like gut issues too, and sometimes what we can see there is like if digestion is off, etc., and you're not detoxing out the excess estrogen because, say, your digestion's off, a ton of things that go into that. But that can kind of help that. Again, with my personal labs, we were seeing a little bit of estrogen dominance, so we put that in. And it is important to note though that even with estrogen dominance, there's going to be different kind of forms within that depending on what way your estrogen is being detoxed. So you can't just jump to any supplement for that. It needs to be more specific in terms of exactly what you're dealing with. So even if you say, oh, I think I do have estrogen, it's still check, because that one still might not be the best one for you. It does still depend. Anyways, chasteberry, estro, corto, thyro boost was another one I took from NuEthix. So that was just to give my thyroid a little bit of extra nutrients to help it not have to work as hard to keep the T3, T4 where it needed to be. And then a couple of others that I added in, obviously vitamin D, because my vitamin D was low, but gut health is another thing that we were working on kind of simultaneously. And digestion, so that I could actually be like absorbing that. I took a GDA, so that's a glucose disposal agent, and this one I took from Phorm. That was just really to help with my insulin, because with the GDA, it's just going to help your body utilize carbs more that you eat. Obviously, goal is to help my body not have to have as big of an insulin response to get those carbs where they need to go. I think that a GDA could be helpful for pretty much anybody, whether it's PCOS side of things or this side of things. So that could have maybe gone in that first category of like, it'd probably be cool for anybody to take that. And then also this one too, Core 21, which is also from Phorm. That is a product that I was taking at nighttime to help get my cortisol levels down and help me just get into a better, deeper, longer sleep. Because again, number one, getting the cortisol down. Number two, getting that deep, restful sleep. That was going to be really important for just recovering my body in general. With the supplements that I use below, but again, in summary, for the ones that I think could kind of benefit everybody: fish oil, multivitamin, reds, greens, Core 21, GDA, vitamin D if you're deficient, and then the more specific ones that were based on my specific labs, liposomal chasteberry, estro, corto, and thyro boost. I'll put links and codes, etc. for all of that below. But again, check your own labs. So another thing, quality food sources was a big one. So also too, lots of healthy fats. So fats are the precursor for hormones, so lots of healthy fats in there. And in terms of just quality food sourcing, things like that. So I was making sure that I wasn't putting just a ton of pro-inflammatory stuff into my body, like, limiting vegetable oils and things like that. Also too, just in general, food sources that made me feel good, nothing that made me super inflamed, bloated, because again, that increases stress inside the body. And our whole goal here was, hey, we got to get stress down everywhere and in any way that we can, pretty much. So another huge thing that we did was basically, as much as possible, getting me into a parasympathetic state. So we have two kind of states that our body can, kind of sit in: parasympathetic, which is going to be a more rest and digest state, and sympathetic, which is more of that fight or flight, which is what so many people don't even realize that they're stuck in. Because it could just be that you're always busy with work, you're never really letting your mind relax, like from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. So a big thing for us was, hey, we have to get you out of that that sympathetic state that you're in all the time, and get you into parasympathetic as much as possible, because that is the rest and digest and recover state that your body needs right now to heal internally and to, get started on this journey to internal health. So that was a huge thing. A couple of things that we did: outdoor walks was a big one for me. That gets me into a very parasympathetic state. And also doing fasted walks to help with my insulin was another thing that I did. Breath work, so deep, like belly breathing, which can help to stimulate the vagus nerve and therefore the parasympathetic state. So breathing, something I still do all the time, and the walks. I've kept a lot of this in because I want to keep my cycle too, and I want to keep myself internally healthy. And these were all things that I was not paying attention to before, because I didn't think it mattered, and now I see how much it really does. So these are all things I still implement. So restorative yoga, I don't do as much anymore because I always forget, but that was something that at first I was doing a couple of times a week, just like a quick 20 to 30 minute video on YouTube to help get me into, again, I didn't even realize I was stuck in a sympathetic state until I got out of it. And I was like, oh wait, this is actually what it feels like to be relaxed. And it's kind of hard whenever you're not used to it. You feel guilty almost, but it's so needed. So the yoga, patience was a huge one. Patience with my body, patience with my cycle coming, patience with with everything, with not being able to train as much. And then obviously too, like I said, I did put on like 15 pounds over this time so far. So the body fat was one that I kind of had to get over of, hey, I might have to have more body fat if I actually want to do this, and learning to accept that and still totally appreciate myself. And that did take, and I still have bad body image days, but it's definitely gotten a lot better, especially because I know I'm prioritizing my internal health, and I know that it's paying off because now, like I said, I've seen 5 cycles. So that's literally everything that I had on here. I think I really covered it all. Those lifestyle things are the biggest things. Like, you got to get your stress down, and you may have to get a little uncomfortable to do that. And yeah, that's that. So I really hope that was helpful for you guys. If you have like questions, feel free to comment them. But again, I gotta be very careful not to like overstep my scope or anything. Like, talk to a doctor, talk to you know, your person, whether you go natural or not, whatever. Just realize too that if you are looking to get certain labs, well, actually, guys, comment below, do you want a video on like labs maybe I would recommend? I don't know, because I feel like too, if you just ask for a panel at the doctor, typically you're not going to get quite everything that you need to look at here. So maybe I could do a video that just kind of covers some things to look at, but again, I don't want to like overstep anything, so just want to be like careful with kind of what I say there. But I really hope that was helpful or insightful, or maybe made you think, or I hope that you learned something. Please be sure to like this and subscribe below. I actually am doing a, in beginning of 2021, I finally get to do a little fat loss phase, obviously keeping it very sustainable, very healthy, focusing on maintaining my cycle through that. But I'm excited. I'm actually going to be doing a whole series on YouTube for that, so be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss that. I'm excited about it for sure. I'm actually going to go ahead and start it early and basically kind of also do a little bit of it in the stages leading up to it, so that you guys can see like where my food's at before I start, all that fun stuff. So stay tuned for all of that. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this. It's been a highly requested, long time coming video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.